So Sarah, welcome to the show. How's life?
Hi, it's pretty good here in Corona times.
Oh, it's a weird time. But look, let's put a bit of a warning on this. So if you are listening to this show and you have children in the car or around, this probably is one which you want to pause or get your headphones in.
Not safe for work. We might alarm you. Brace yourself. We're going to get juicy.
So Sarah, look, like me and you have been talking over here in Bali, and I think there's a big topic of conversation which I don't really feel gets aired. We've had relationship coaches, we've had single people coaches, we've had sex coaches come in, but at the end of the day, we as humans are pleasure-seeking missiles, aren't we? And pleasure is pretty much the thing which we'll always get drawn to, sometimes at our demise, sometimes to the great. And the thing that I found about you is you've got such a big mission, which is to help,
I am just a big advocate for people enjoying their sex lives and to stop lying and stop pretending that you're having a good time when really what you want to do is maybe try something a little bit outside of the box. I want to encourage women to stop faking orgasms, men to step up to the plate in what they actually want and using their voices. So it's, predominantly around using your voice properly to ask for what you need so you can have a more satisfied life.
I love this. So anyway, just before we jump into this is just obviously off that. If this is one which you need to kind of prepare yourself for, then now's the time to do it and come back to it later. But Sarah, look, I think with what you've just said, and I know given the realms where I work in and I consult for, using your voice and asking for what you want is sometimes the hardest thing for people. And I love how this correlates itself over into the bedroom and in people's relationships. Now, like when it comes down to getting pleasure and stuff like that, why is it such a hard thing for people to speak up?
We weren't taught how to speak up for it. If you think about going back into school, when we were taught about what sex is, it's basically like, this is how you're going to make a baby. The end. Everyone in the room was uncomfortable. The kids are like picking on the teacher for talking about a penis or a vagina, and we're giggling. And that's what we're taught. We're taught to go inward with this and be like, oh, no. Like, even in that moment, hold your voice. Like, I don't ever remember anyone asking me if I had any questions about my own vagina or anything. It was just like, figure it out. Like when I got my period for the first time, I kept it to myself for 3 months. I was so afraid. I thought I was dying internally. Like there's just no open communication about this when we're children. So of course we're going to lose our voices along the way. And if you speak out, at least from where I'm from, it was like a solid backhand or like a really bold stare where it was like, no. Don't ask questions. So why would we know how to speak or advocate for what we want in the bedroom?
Do you know what? I've never actually thought of this. Like, if I think back to my own time, like the sex education we got in England was literally just putting a condom on a cucumber.
We didn't even get that. I went to Catholic school, so we didn't even talk about that. Condoms were not a thing. Birth control was not a thing. Pleasure, for sure, off the table. It was like, this is what you do. This is how you make a lot of babies, and praise Jesus.
Oh my God. So with this then, like, do you feel like it's because there's a lot of shame around it, or there's like a guilt box or something along the lines of that? Is that why people like struggle?
I don't know why each individual person struggles. I'll speak for myself and knowing that, like, I remember the first time I had sex, it was solely for the pleasure of the other person.
Yep.
And the way that I lost my virginity was in a car at a ski slope, and I got my snowboard stolen, and nothing felt good for me. I was definitely not ready. I didn't understand that it took a long time for women to really get revved up and ready for everything. So I was just like, why do people want to do this all the time? And I was like obsessed with porn from a young age. I was like 12 and I found it. And I was like, what is this? So I mimicked everything that I learned from there. So from the get-go, I was a liar. From the get-go, I didn't understand that like sex could be pleasurable for me. And I held that until I was around 30. That's a lot of years.
So how did you go about unraveling it all? How did you go about like stepping into who you are? Not just as a person, but also in the bedroom, so to speak.
Right. So I moved to New York City and was kind of fed to the wolves immediately. I got put into like a pretty dark scene. I hung out with people who were like heavily tattooed, into the sex world, all about it. And I was always too afraid to ask any questions because I didn't want to seem like a loser. I've always been really concerned with how I was, like how people viewed me, which comes from my mother. Like we were always very put together, but we were poor as shit. It was a nightmare in my household. So I just knew like, you just present yourself as if you know everything and eventually you'll learn. So I did that. And then I entered into this like long-term relationship where I was sexually unsatisfied. I couldn't tell my partner, this is at no fault to him. I need that to be known. Like I didn't speak up for myself. I faked every orgasm. I was miserable in our bedroom, and he had a porn addiction. So I was like trying to be exactly what I was seeing in what he was viewing. And I still wasn't satisfied. So when we broke up, I was on a Tinder date, my first Tinder date.
Oh.
And it was incredible. Like, he took over, and I finally got to see what it was like to be worshipped as a woman, and like every like bit and bobble of me. And like, I'm a thick white girl, and I was always like, make yourself smaller. Like, that's what you need to do. And like, definitely don't make too much noise. Definitely make sounds that you think are going to please him. And I was like, why? I was tired of it. So in that first sexual encounter with him, I was like, I'm just going to be me. And I had the most pleasurable experience of my life. So I was like, oh, okay. So there's something here. I'm not broken. Like, getting to orgasm with another partner is hard. It's not easy, especially if you don't understand your own body. So then I took time and I was like, okay, what feels right for me? So I took it just into my own bedroom, not touching any, like, I didn't touch my vagina, I didn't touch my boobs. I was like, let me touch my arms, see what this feels like more pressure there. How does that feel? How can I help guide someone else into giving me pleasure? And then as I was continuing to do that, I realized I was stepping up in my workplace, and I was advocating for a raise, or like I wanted a new project, or I wanted to try this. And I was like, here I am, bam, done. And like, I was climbing the ladder pretty quickly, which was awesome. In my friend's life, like I didn't ever have FOMO, but I wanted to be invited to everything. And then I realized I was like, I don't have to go everywhere. I don't have to do everything. I'm only going to do what feels right for me. So I just started doing it across the board. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to say yes and no to. And I'm going to honor that. And if that means I'm in bed by 8 p.m. by myself, that's fine. I don't care.
There's so many things which I can pluck and jump into through conversation with that. I think the biggest thing that I want to touch up on, I was speaking to, obviously we had the dating coaches, and we had Dr. Eva Brown on, which you now know.
My favorite.
Yeah. So the thing that you said there is that you were in a dissatisfied relationship. You weren't really getting off, and it wasn't any part of the partner's problem, yep, but it was on yours. But the actual stats, when you actually look into it, that's not rare. That's a very common thing, yep, isn't it? So, I mean, for people who might find themselves in that arena, like, where would be the best place to start? What would you say the best thing is to do?
What I realized is that I needed to take a minute to figure out what I wanted, and then to also consider the partner. So I remember the first time I was like, can we go to a sex store together? And he begrudgingly said yes. And I was like, I want you to be excited about this, but like, that's my expectation upon him. So try to go into it with like no expectations, total open mind. Because I was like, all right, well, I know I can get off with a vibrator, so maybe I can get off with a vibrator with my partner in the same bed. We'll see. He wasn't really open to it. It was just like a lot of kind of judgments, and I don't know what that was about, but I was like, okay, cool. So then I learned from that moment. I was like, don't do that. And then I was just started saying out loud like things that I liked, and so I could hear my own voice. And not that I ever used it with him, but later on down the line it worked out. So if like you're in an or a dissatisfied sexual relationship with your long-term partner right now, I would just say, start using your voice in front of the mirror. Lock eyes with yourself. Get used to your own voice. Say really ridiculous, raunchy things. Like, go for the gold. The dirtier, the better, because that might not be your go-to fantasy. But then when you're in the bedroom with someone else, it'll be easier to be like, no. Like, can you lick my clit like this? Mm. Which is great.
I just had then the vision. Have you seen the Paul Rudd viral video?
No.
Where he's doing the dirty talk in the mirror.
No.
It's like his first time like trying to do it. I think it's on Wanderlust or something like that. It's absolutely hilarious. Little skit. But I think when we flip back to that, like the first time that you speak up, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the bedroom. I think this can be just in life, in business. The first time you literally like find your voice, ground it, and use it. It's quite an uncomfortable feeling. It feels quite
it's
awkward.
Always uncomfortable. No, like for me, I'm still uncomfortable. Like I was telling you earlier, I had a conversation with my partner last night, and I was just sitting there like gripping the sides of the chair, and I just needed to say something that wasn't all that vulnerable. I just thought he was out fucking everyone else when he wasn't with me, which is asinine, and he gets to if he wants to. But I was so uncomfortable to like be vulnerable in that state and be like, do you love me less? What does that mean? And once I said it out loud, it was like the fear immediately dissipated. He met me with so much love and compassion. I was like, oh, right. Like my brain is a lot more dangerous than reality. So once you just start to say things out loud, for me, the fear is just like, poof, gone. There it is.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You big things up in your head, don't you, to be worse than they actually are. Especially if it's in something like, even, for example, just saying what you want in the bedroom. It could be like, oh, but what if they think I'm weird? And so, do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So it's...
But like, who cares if someone thinks you're weird? They're not your person then.
With that then, like, obviously, because you had to literally come out of the woodwork, and quite literally. So it's like, look, this is, especially from the, was it Catholic?
Yeah. Well, so like Catholic school, Methodist household, Jewish last name, atheist father.
Yeah.
I have all the religion, all of the shaming, everything. And it was funny when I was a kid, my dad always said, like, if you're gay, it's okay. To the point where I was like, did you get a certificate that told you that your daughter is gay? Because I do not understand. But they were like really open for all of that. But sex definitely wasn't talked about in my household. And then it was shamed everywhere else. So it was just like, oh, weird.
Well, this is what I want to go into, because obviously if that's been the conditioning and that's what you've been brought up to, you'll numb yourself to it,
Yeah.
don't you? So you'll numb yourself down, you'll shut yourself down. So I think the biggest thing that you picked up on was that you kind of had to start going around getting to know yourself on a feel level.
Yep.
Which is kind of a big thing. And I feel like, even, again, not just in this area, but even in life, business, whatnot, it's like knowing what you want, knowing what you're going after, but also feeling your way into things as well.
I'm a big feeler, and like in my professional work, it's all about the body and all about feeling. So the fact that this correlates directly into it is really fun. And like just a simple exercise that you can do right now while you're listening to us is like stick your arm out and then have it be so your palm is facing towards the ground, and just drag your fingers from your wrist all the way up to your elbow, and then flip so your palm is up towards the ceiling, and then do the same thing and see the difference in the sensation, see how your body starts to react. And then you can play with pressure and see what feels right there. Even that is just a little glimpse into perhaps how you want to be touched.
It really is it, isn't it? Just finding what you like.
It's so easy,
and then communicating it.
Yes, like my neck is super sensitive, and I didn't ever know how to be like, can you like bite that? And I was like, is that weird? What's gonna happen? How will my body react when that happens? Like so many different questions. But if you're with someone and you're communicating effectively, you're totally safe. All is well. You don't have to bug out, in my experience.
That's what pulls you into the vulnerability aspect as well, isn't it?
Being vulnerable.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, because we're also not taught how to be vulnerable. Like at least I think we come from parents who are super put together, and maybe if they went through something, they didn't start to process through that trauma, so then they carry it and then they throw it on us, and then they've bred this just generation of feelers who are willing to like go inward and figure out what it is and not pass it on to our kids. So it's this like really big difference in just one generation, which I think is really crazy. So like we're the big feelers, we're ready to be vulnerable. It's okay to say that out loud. I know for me, at least in my friend group, it's really spoken about. Like, I'm feeling this way. When you say this, I feel like that. My parents didn't ever say that. Like, no. So we're all like bumbling around together, figuring it out.
I mean, what I'd love to say on this as well is like, because obviously the male aspect, coming through the male ranks, especially in Britain, it's very closed. And you don't, like, the thing that I'm loving now is over the past few years, more men are coming to, and I feel like this, like, do you know what? I don't feel okay today.
Yeah.
And that's something that I love as well, because I feel like for women, it's a lot easier for them to be open, to express the way they feel. But I feel like at the same time, men struggle to get what they want in certain areas because they're not willing to express. And I think that also crosses itself there, and it never gets voiced.
I think it does get voiced because I have a lot of one-on-one male clients where we talk a lot about this. So we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of that. And just speaking from like your land of the world, there's this guy on Instagram, The Honest Bloke, and he's just talking about all things like men's mental health and getting into that and taking care of it and taking note of what's actually going on and being able to verbalize it. And I've just been following him for a bit, and I'm like, oh my God, like you're giving a platform for men that they actually need, and it's so beautiful. So I'm like very thankful for that, because like obviously I'm a woman. I'm like a masculine woman. I have a lot of masculine energy. So I call in a lot of clients who are a lot more comfortable with me to be open, but I know that that's not how they're going to be when they go home to their wives or their partners, you know? And I'm just like, be messy, allow yourself to be messy, and know that it's okay. Because like you would never judge your girlfriend or wife for being sensitive. Like it's just kind of expected of us. So like, why don't you try it out too?
Do you feel like with this sort of stuff, it literally could just be the case of a simple conversation?
Always. Everything comes down to communication. Every foundation of any relationship comes down to communication. And if you're going to sit there and like expect them to read your mind, you are going to be disappointed. That is a you thing. So just say it. Like I said last night, I sat there gripping the sides of my chair, and then I said it out loud, and all was well. Immediately dissipated. Things started to change. We had a really beautiful conversation of how to handle that and be like, oh, when I feel like this, say this. He was like, why don't you just text me? I think you're fucking Olive Ballet. And I was like, oh, how could I ever? And he was like, exactly, because it's silly. And I was like, right, okay.
But you can both work through that though, can't you? Now that it's in the air, it's
exactly.
like, oh.
But like he didn't know that was happening, right? Like not a mind reader. He's just like, I don't know, off doing whatever the hell he does when he's not with me, which is fine. And I love that. I love separation. I love understanding like what's going on. And also like I can ask, right? I can be like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on? And that's how you also start to build more trust. And, with communication comes a lot of trust. And I think a lot of people have trust issues. And especially if you've been burned in previous relationships from infidelity or, sexual trauma or anything, you're going to start to pull back a lot and you're going to have strong reactions rather than effortless communication.
I love this. I'd love to kind of go into this as well, because obviously in your story, you've kind of gone through this whole discovering yourself sort of thing to then like really putting yourself on the chopping block. And I always think like being in a monogamous relationship, it's okay because you kind of get some of those fears, the deep-rooted insecurities can sometimes throw themselves out there. But when you kind of open yourself up and you've placed yourself into a polyamorous, was it polyamorous or were you saying more open?
No, because we're not. So polyamorous is different. I think like the best way to describe it would be ethical non-monogamy. So like it's us and we may have other loves, but we've decided that we're going to be together and we'll play with others also. But that's going to happen together. But he said to me, he's like, you can go out and sleep with anyone if you want. And I was like, what?
The thing that I'd love to speak to you about this is because first things first is because there's got to become a moment when you go, do you know what? Like, first things first, monogamy isn't for me. Like, that's the first thing, isn't it? Yeah. So at that point, then you've then got the thing of like, how do I communicate this with people? So let's go there, because I get questions so much, like, especially of guys, like I really struggle. I don't think I'm here for, like, I really struggle with the whole one thing. I don't think this is the right phase in my life. And they're trying to put themselves into something that they might not be.
Yeah, stop trying to be like everything else. Stop trying to be whatever you were taught that you needed to be. If you are not someone who wants to be in a monogamous relationship, that is totally fine. And if you are, way to go. Celebrate whatever it is that you are. But if you do want to play around with it, again, effortless communication. In my previous relationship, my partner and I didn't live in the same country. So when we decided that we wanted to be back together, I was like, I need it to be an open relationship. And for him too, like, we all have sexual needs. And I had to learn that if my partner puts their dick in someone else, it does not mean that they love me any less. But like, how dare I get in the way of that person experiencing pleasure? And I remember he like came back and he was like, well, what if I take a girl on like a romantic getaway? And I was like, that is different. That is not just sex. Like, I don't need to know your name to fuck you. And that's okay. But if I'm taking you away on a weekend and I'm giving you parts of myself that I should be sharing with my like main partner, that's a big difference for me.
I want to break this down. So do you feel that in this, like, it's the attachment, isn't it? So I feel like in this, it becomes dangerous if you're like, for example, you've disattached sex to love. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm presuming. Yeah. So.
Oh, you can. I mean, different kinds of sex.
Yeah. And then obviously it's like, do you know what? These are our things. We boundarize those.
Yeah.
So like anything where it's like an emotional.
I mean, I don't want to have a one night stand where someone's making love to me. Like, that requires a little bit of groundwork, like an actual like trust, communication, and flow. Like, when I have a one night stand, like, we are fucking and you are leaving. You are not spending the night. You are not holding me. You gotta go. The end. But like with my partner, we can also have that kind of sex, but then also we can have the kind of sex where it is really slow and passionate and lovely. So there's just like different levels, and like having fun with all of them too. But so the first like open relationship I tried to do, that guy didn't work out. He thought I was out fucking everyone and came for me, and it did not feel good. And I was like, listen, it's not gonna work. And we're not in the same country, so you got to go. Like, the end. This
is the thing, like, it's just, for me, like, this sort of stuff, it's an absolute death practice, isn't it? Like,
what does that mean?
Death practice. So, for example, like, you place in yourself, like, for that, in your pursuit of sexual discovery and all that sort of stuff and what you've done, you've really got to come to, like, jealousy. Does that make sense? You've got to come to terms with that and break that down. There's a lot of things that will come up. Like, you're placing yourself out there to kind of, like, maybe be hurt, put yourself into vulnerable positions and all that sort of stuff to find the parts of yourself. Like, a lot of people think I've done the work internally, but then as soon as they get into an individual relationship with one person, monogamous relationship, it's like, boom, the grenade's gone off. It's like, nope, jealousy's back. Insecurities are there. Lost my voice.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm a strong, independent woman, and I was like, bam, like, I've got my businesses. They're going really well. I live in Bali. I left New York. Things are going great. I'm on top of the world. And then I fall in love and everything is ripped out from underneath me. And I'm like, oh no, what's happened? I'm now this like needy, whiny little baby who wants to be with their partner all the time. Like, not a good look. And I had to be like, all right, well, what's being threatened within me? And I realized that I was raised in a conditional love kind of household. So for me, I'm going to constantly seek that validation and that love from this person because that's what little me wanted. And I've done a ton of internal, like, what is it called? Like, inner child work. And It's horrible. It's really confronting. And I was like, cool, like we're on top of it. I've taken care of little Sarah. No, like she's still triggered.
Do you not see that though? Like a lot of people, as soon as they get into a relationship, will collapse everything that makes them. Like someone will take their eye off the business. They'll take their eye off different areas. They'll mold themselves into.
Well, because we fall into this like honeymoon period, right? And then it's like, well, can you maintain like your sense
3
of
months.
self? Can you maintain your sense of self and what's important for you and be able to verbalize that to your partner and be like, and my current partner and I are really good at that. We're like, yo, we got to work. Like you got to go. See you later. And because like my businesses are really important to me, they come first right now. They're babies, so it's like I need to tend to that, even though I would just like to lay on the couch and be wrapped in his arms.
Yeah, I always think that's what a love language that was never in the book.
Yeah.
I think it's the sixth one is distance, being able to be apart, like respect each other's space,
definitely,
and all that sort of stuff.
So lots of conversations around that. But I think going back to your question when you were saying like how do you start to verbalize this with someone? So I mean we were sitting on the same couch a few weeks ago, and it was like early stages of dating this guy, and he said to me, he was so freaked out, he had to like keep looking at his phone for notes, and then he told me I was one of 7.
Oh.
And I was like, oh. I honestly thought like he was like gearing up to tell me that he had HIV and that I was gonna die, and instead he told me I was one of 7, and honestly it felt worse. It felt worse because I was like, oh, I really felt a connection with this person. I thought we were spending a lot of time together, And he was like, but I really like you, but like this is my past and this is who I am, and I wanted to be honest with you because I've never been honest with someone about this. And then I was like, oh, all right. And I asked him, I was like, I need space. I need to think about this. I need to see how it feels. Like, can you back off? And fellas, if a lady says she needs some space, give her the space. Don't text her. Don't show up at her house. Don't do shit. Give her space to feel, process, and she will come back to you when she's ready. But if you are a needy little baby in that moment, And this is the first dude that has ever given me the space that I needed to like actually sit with it. And then you know what came up? I was seeing 3 other people.
So it was like
he was one of 4. Yes, he was one of 4. And I was like, oh no.
Then you had to have the conversation back?
Yeah. And, you know, like I came back to him and I was like, hey, like, all right, I'm cool with this. He
I was gonna say, did he mirror your reaction?
No, he was
okay.
He was like, great. Well, like, where are they at? Like, what do you want to do with that? Do you want to like play with them? Like, what's up? And then he said to me, he was like, well, like, what if we were in a relationship together and we just played with people together? And I was like, oh, this has never been put on the table for me. That sounds like fun. I love group play, definitely. And like going on dates with other people is really fun and sweet and a different kind of dynamic that I hadn't experienced before. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to remain open-minded. But the backbone of everything is communication. The amount of serious conversations we've had to have over the past month is sickening. And it's way more conversations that I ever had than in a monogamous relationship. So if you're just like, I want to, you know, see a bunch of people, I want to have sex with a bunch of people, hats off to you. Please understand, it's more work. More people, more work. Yeah. One person, less work. But it was a hard thing for me to take a look at and to realize like I was throwing stones from my own glass house. And I care about this human and I like it. So I was like, all right, well, let's see how it unfolds. So we probably have a serious conversation about every 3 days. And it's like, well, how are you feeling? What's going on? And he brings up really valid points. So both people need to be on the same page.
The thing that I love about this is, and I don't know the guy, hopefully I meet him, but I just love how it's honesty, transparency, do you know what I mean? Like just being really clear, transparent, this is who I am, this is what I want, if you're on the same level, respecting each other, all that sort of stuff. And I really think like even at the simplest levels, even in dating and stuff like that, transparency, if that's not there from the get-go, it's crippled. Like yeah. you are where you are because from the word go, you've been able to be transparent, honest, and you've grown together within that. Whereas, say for example, in the honeymoon period, a lot of people will not do that. They'll mold themselves into something not to get the person and then try and leverage the relationship on a lie.
I was a chameleon for so long. I remember I faked liking baseball. I faked liking snowboarding. I faked running. I ended up running a half marathon. I don't run, guys. No, thank you. But I was like, this will get this dude, and then we'll have something to talk about.
I've just got visions of you chasing a guy down the street.
God, it was so stupid, Simon. It was so dumb, and I have a permanent quad injury because of it. So you live and you learn. And now I just tell people I'm into like weird energy work. I'm an aura photographer. I really like talking about sex, and I'm booked and busy a lot of the time. My friends are really important to me, and I like to go out a lot. So.
The thing I love about that though is like, do you not think in the pursuit of love, like when you look back at the things that you've done, do you know what I mean, to chase love instead of like just being and letting it come to you. I think
Yep.
that there's just some. I just think back to my own stories and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I mean, the relationships were set up to fail from the get-go because I wasn't honest. So I think dishonesty, it's like my number one red flag. If somebody's like, oh yeah, I just told a little bit of lie, or like I said I was going to go here, but I did that. Nah, I don't have time for you. Honesty is the only way that I know how to function.
Yep.
And that sometimes means it goes right into that vulnerability moment where it's like you might hurt someone's feelings, but like we're all big kids. Like we know how to handle ourselves. So like somebody may need a little bit of space to process, but like how dare you be deceiving in friendships, work, sexual relationships, whatever.
The thing that I love about what you're saying as well with this is, like, if I look back at my own dating history, there was periods where I was really dishonest, and if I could have just communicated things from the word go, it would have left a lot of pain on my end as well.
But why did you feel that you needed to be dishonest?
At that time?
Yeah.
Because being really honest, I think it was showing up as something I just wasn't, or I was trying to please the person. I definitely was a serial people pleaser. And I think that was because the story of me is I came out of a relationship about 6 years ago, and I said, no, I've got to work on myself. And it's took me 6 years now, and I'm kind of new in a fresh start of a relationship, which is new, committed. So this is fun. It's all little grenades ready to go off. But I had to work on myself. Like, for the person who I was at that period coming out of that relationship, I would have never have got what I wanted. To be honest, I didn't even know what I wanted. And I think this is another thing, is a lot of people don't know what they want in a relationship, out of a partner, from themselves within a relationship, the purpose of a relationship. So I think a lot of the time people are going in search of something that they don't know what it looks like.
Well, how dare you not take the time to figure that out? And like I have a really good exercise that I just
But I
share
never
with
got told.
everyone.
I put a condom on a cucumber. That was all of my
right,
love and
right,
relationship
right.
and sex.
Well, so I mean this is why I speak so openly about this all the time now, because we weren't taught that. And like, what if you had the one loud friend? Like, I will happily be the loud American in any group who's going to start talking about weird sex stuff, kink, BDSM, and also like strong foundations of relationships. So the thing that was suggested to me that I do is I made a list of all the characteristics that I wanted in a partner. And they can be ridiculous. They can be like tall, dark, and handsome. And like for me, it's like a nonviolent communicator. If you yell at me, you're done. Yeah. So I have a list of about 10 things. And then I have a second list, and it is, how do I want to show up in a relationship? Yeah. Like, who do I want to be? And at the top of it is an honest person. Like, I don't want to fake liking something. I just want to be authentically me. And then I highlight 3 things on both columns, and I adhere to them. They are non-negotiables. So if a guy raises his voice to me, see you later. No, thank you. If you are not financially self-supporting, you gotta go. Not to say that there's anything wrong if you're not, but it doesn't work for me. Yeah. You know? And for me, it's like one of my non-negotiables is being open-minded and supportive of whatever my partner wants to do. Because my ex wanted to be a yoga teacher, and I was like, so we're gonna be broke forever? Like, what do you mean? So I ended up not being supportive, and how dare I? I have a million different endeavors, and he supported all of them. So I want to be supportive of whatever my partner is doing. And like, so
but you had to notice that within yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you feel that was? Because the reason I want to ask this is because I've seen this a lot in a lot of my girl mates. Actually, no, a lot of my guy mates as well. When they've gone out and they've gone, do you know what? I'm going to go and do this. They've been shot down. It's like, I'm going to put myself forwards. I'm going to go after something. It's like, no, bang.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. So what was it?
Child.
The corporate?
So I recently started a new business, and I did a big investment on myself, the first time in my life. And I had like sent all of this money, and I was so excited. I was dancing on my bed, and I was like, yes, here we go. It's all coming together. And my then partner turned to me and said, it's so sad that you're going to split your attention between 2 businesses, and both will probably fail.
In those specific words?
Yes.
So he led with his selfish needs before.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, we're having a party right now? You're either on board or not. But like, if not, get out of the room, because I'm having a dance party for this new endeavor of mine. And that's what I realized. Like, this is probably how I made my ex feel when he came home and said, I want to go to yoga teacher training. I was like, you loser. No. Yeah. And like, granted, I think I was like 24 or something. I was a baby. But I was like, oh, how dare I ever squash someone else's dreams? So I don't care how silly it is. Go for the gold. I'll support you. I'll learn stuff so I can be supportive. We can push each other further. And I think that's what's important for like a strong backbone of a relationship.
Yeah, I really agree. Support, grow together, isn't it?
Yeah. And like, there's a million ways to go through this life. So have some fun. Take chances. Fall on your face. Who cares?
Exactly. You can always go again.
Yeah, and also like makes for a really good story. So.
Yeah. So with everything kind of like where we are now, I really kind of want to crack this back and segue back to where we were. Like, obviously for you kind of like, you came out of the monogamous thing, do you know what I mean? And then you kind of like open yourself up. For you, how long did you know that you, like, monogamy wasn't for you? And then how did you go about do you know what I mean? Kind of like getting out there and bringing it all in. Like, because I know there are people who have got these things that they know they want to go and explore. Again, I've had multiple conversations with people like, I wouldn't mind just trying. Or some people do it as a self-discovery exercise as well.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get over jealousy.
Jealousy is a lot. I was a devoutly jealous person for a long time, and I had to do some work around that. But I don't know if monogamy is not for me. It's just not for me right now.
Yeah.
In this current moment, and I want to just have some fun. Like, I'm never going to be 33 again. Like, I want to experience it all. I don't want to look back and be like, tied myself down to that person who was pretty cool, but I also wanted to fuck that lady in the restaurant. You know? Like, I want it all. And I want my partner to be like, yeah, I want to watch you.
Putting your number on the receipt and just slide it under the tray.
I've done it. It's good. It's fine. You know? And it was just like, all right, taking note of what I wanted in that current moment. And who's to say in 2 months down the line, I'm not going to want to be monogamous with my current partner? I don't know. But again, all of the communication comes down to that. I didn't know that I wanted to start off this year in an open relationship with someone who lived on a boat in the middle of nowhere, but I did, and I got to verbalize it, and I was like, oh, this felt good coming out of my mouth. This feels good in my body and in my heart. And then it didn't work out, and I was like, well, did I fail at this? Like, what does this mean? And then I realized, I was like, no, I just didn't have someone who's meeting me on the same level, because he didn't necessarily want that either. So I think both parties need to understand what's going on. And if you like go to your partner and you're like, I want to try doing this, or I want to invite someone into the bedroom, and they're closed-minded about it, ask questions. Ask what's being disturbed, what's going on underneath the surface. Is there a limiting belief being questioned? Do they feel that you're going to love them less? And that's when I was like, oh, I truly believe that if my current partner were to have sex with someone else, I would be fine, because of the love and the support that I feel from him. And I think that's really beautiful. And it's something that's like a super new relationship, but the fact that we've like really worked on the foundational blocks of this, it feels like there's no crack in the cement. It's okay. But that comes from being vulnerable and being like, I'm uncomfortable here.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love like this aspect, because with what you say, when it comes down to great communications and both like having each other's backs and being on the same page. I was out for dinner once, a big business dinner. I'm not going to name names, but the guy was a very successful entrepreneur, and he was in a relationship similar to yourself and whatnot. And I can just remember the girl was like, oh, this guy's been speaking to me, and the thing that I loved about it and really acknowledged, and I said to him after, I was like, that level of communication is amazing. Just. She went and told him, she's like, look, I really want to go and get to know this guy. Are you okay with it? And they both got, like, he got excited for her.
Yes.
And I was like, he's like, yeah, I'd love that. Let's go over. It's just, that's what I think is just incredible. Like, when you're both on the same page, you're both communicating clearly, you're both transparent, you know what each other wants.
And like making sure not to shame anyone for feeling a certain way. I think there's a lot of shame that goes on with sex. Yeah, it's like no shame and total support. And it's like, all right, well, maybe that's just like a feeling that I have in my body right now, and maybe I'm not ready to physically act on it. Making sure that you can still have a conversation around that too, and being like, oh, okay, well, you felt attracted to this person. Like, what about them was attractive? Like, what was going on? Like, my partner and I, we recently went on a date with a guy last week, and he was fine, but like we got home and he was like, oh, like, what do you feel about it? Da da da. And I was like, I don't know, it's like cool. Like, I believe in giving everyone 2 dates. And he was like, I don't. He was like, he didn't ask us any questions about us. He didn't ask us how we met. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, it didn't even occur to me. So like when you go on a date with someone else, you can see like how other people interact. And like, he wasn't like eating us alive with his eyeballs or anything. Like, there was no real passion there. And that's what
he was just there, but not
yeah,
there.
He was just there. It felt like an interview. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like, I wasn't even aware of that, because I get really swept up quickly. And he was like the more pragmatic person at that moment. And he was like, I don't know, it feels like not for me. And I was like, oh, cool. And like, I get to respect that and be like, all right, great. So like, we put him on the shelf for the time being. Maybe we go and revisit together, but maybe not. And it was cool for me to see like I could be on a date with 2 dudes. Like, it was great.
Just be grin.
Well, I mean, because it's so frequently like men expect like a threesome with 2 women. Like, it's just common knowledge. Like, of course, like, that's what it's going to be. If you ask guys, like, have you had a threesome? Yeah, of course, duh. And then it's like, but have you had a threesome with a dude? No, I'm not gay. And you're like, yo, it has nothing to do with that. Like, chill out. Just because there's 2 hard dicks in a room doesn't mean you're gay. It doesn't mean, like, anything's going in your butt. It's okay. But also, like, maybe you want your woman to experience double the pleasure. Like, maybe you could be a little selfless and see, like, what it looks like to watch your partner have extreme pleasure from someone else. Like, that sounds like fun too.
Yeah.
And like providing for both people. I don't know.
It's fun though, isn't it? Because I think it becomes like in that sort of scenario, like I'm just thinking about like my different social circles, and I just like to place myself in different topics of conversation with them. There's like one group with that, and they're just like hard no. It's just like no. Like, does that make sense? But then the other's like, yeah, I totally get it, and all this sort of stuff. But I always think like,
But why the hard no?
yeah,
Like that. Like when I watch men start to like recoil.
because it's about them.
Yeah.
That's what I was. This is where I was going. It becomes selfish on their terms. It's about me.
Yeah.
Not about that.
Not about your partner seeking pleasure.
But I think then my other side of my brain goes to they will attract that in their lover as well. So that does that make sense? So
I didn't attract any of this shit until this person, and I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah, but now that you're open to all this stuff, you're now attracting that in. Does that make sense?
I think I've been pretty open for a while around this, and I just thought that it was going to be unachievable for a gal like me. And how dare I limit myself? Like, I'm deserving of everything I want too. And if you don't think that, if you don't have any self-worth around this, it's going to be a problem.
But look, like for you got the confidence to go there and pursue it and to execute on it.
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm so scared. Like, absolutely scared. Like, we were just at a party with one of his ex-lovers, and she obviously wanted to make out with me. I was like, like, I was timid. I don't know what happened to me.
Just shied away in the corner.
It was so weird. And, like, I hugged her goodbye, and like, we started making out. Then we were in this, like, cuddle puddle for an hour, all making out together, and it was so much fun. And I was like, I could have missed out on this. And also for me, an ex-super jealous human, watching my partner make out with an ex-lover of his, no jealousy. It was so beautiful.
Cheering him on.
Yeah, basically, I was like, yes, get this, for sure. Oh, okay, you both want to be on me? Yes, honey. Like, for sure. Like, I don't know. I think we get this one life. We should experience as much as we want. And if this makes you terribly uncomfortable and you hate it, not for you. That's okay, too. But, like, push the limits. Like, find where it's the point where it's a little uncomfortable and see if there's room for growth or if you need to pull back.
I always think, like, people have... So, for example, like, people are always exploring. Do you know what I mean? It's always on people's radars, especially in porn as well. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God.
So
stop watching porn. Stop watching porn. It messes up your brain. It really upsets me. My very good friend Kristen is a sexologist, and she sent me this insane video about how it messes with like the neuroplasticity in your brain. And you can see so much more in like 5 seconds on the internet than you will in your entire life. And for fuck's sake, then you're gonna have a naked woman in front of you and it won't be as exciting. So stop messing up your orgasms. Thank you.
Yeah, I was reading on that. It numbs you to the real.
Yeah, definitely.
The weird thing is with that, like now, they're moving into VR. So can you imagine what's going to come next? It's
Stop
like
it.
when you numb down again, the human
fuck
experience.
Women, fuck people, like actual individuals. Like go out, be vulnerable. Like maybe have your dick not work, maybe not have an orgasm. I don't know, but like be humans.
But do you not think that's it though? Like it's a short. You can get something short. You can get it immediately. The touch of a button. It takes out all the hard work. You don't have to connect. There's no fear.
I'm upset.
But that's maybe that's why there's so much addiction to it though. Do you know what I mean? There's no fear because it's just behind a screen.
How dare I push myself into a zone where I can potentially change and transform and be a better person? Stop living behind screens.
Yeah, lift the veil.
Yeah, and like stop having serious conversations via text. Pick up the goddamn phone. Like, for fuck's sake. God, I get so frustrated. And that's not to say like I don't watch porn with my partner every now and then too. Like, sure, like spice something up. I don't know, but don't become dependent upon it. And girls, put your vibrators down. Get associated with your hand. Thank you. Soapbox, stepping off now.
Bam. So with this then, let's move back into pleasure. So obviously we were saying before, like, if you actually look at the stats and stuff like that, there's a lot of people faking orgasms or faking pleasure or in unhappy, like... So,
Stop it right now.
So like, let's break this down because obviously there's something... We shouldn't be faking ourselves, especially if we're with loved ones as well. So let's talk about this because obviously the biggest thing was vulnerability and pleasure. How do we break this down? How do we kind of get around this?
First and foremost, I want to say that I faked orgasms for 10 years. If you are doing that, you are not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with you, but maybe stop doing it. Maybe ask for what you need. Maybe figure out like how to communicate that with your partner. Be like, actually, this feels good, and allow yourself to feel really amazing. Kind of like you were talking about being a people pleaser before. I felt the same way, and I was like, I'm in the sexual intimate experience to provide pleasure for my partner, and they want to do that for me too. So how dare I take away from them the reality of it? Like, why do I need to fake it so like I can stroke their ego? Stroke my ego. Get me off. Like if I'm devoted to your orgasm, do the same for me. And like I feel in my experience, guys have been a lot more vocal. Like, do this. I like this. Or like just they take control and it feels amazing. Women, take control. I invite you to step into it and see how amazing it is. You don't want to miss out on it. I remember the first time I started to do it, I was like, oh, what? This is what I've been missing
This
out
is
on.
a thing?
Yeah, I was like, this is available for a gal like me? Perfect. And then I was like, all right. So I started like easing into it. So I have like a hard rule. I will not fake an orgasm with you. And if I'm no longer interested in having sex with you and you are inside of me, I will tap you on the shoulder and I say, I think we're done.
I'm out.
I think we're done. I'm not out. You're out. Get out of me. And that's it. And it's just like standing up for exactly what it is that you need. Like, just come back to you and realize that like you are important enough for your own pleasure. So speak up for it, please and thank you.
So the thing is with that though, like where would people start? Like that's the biggest thing that I look at. Like, what's the smallest stepping stone for people?
I mean, what if we didn't immediately jump into bed and go to genitals? What if you pulled back and you're like, let's have a night of just exploring each other's bodies? And it doesn't have to be some like candlelit weird experience. Just being like, hey, can you just like caress my body and I want to see what feels right? And then maybe it escalates into him going down on you. And then you being like, actually what I like is lighter licks. Or like self-pleasure in front of your partner. See how that feels. And then they can see how you touch yourself. So then they can touch you like that. And if someone's too rough with your own area, say, hey, that's too much. They're all simple things. Like, no one's ego is going to be hurt in this scenario because at the end of the day, we both want to please one another.
It's a permission slip to explore freely and safely.
Yeah, definitely.
Why have we fucked it up? Like, why is this like? No, this is my question because there's no education around any of this stuff. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, especially from the UK as well. It's a very like.
Y'all are so close.
It's not a spoken about arena, so to speak. And now I've been traveling the world, I'm like, holy crap, these guys are like, do you know what I mean? So why is this area just so like hard? Like, why do we struggle to communicate? Is it because we don't know what we want from the get-go? Is it because we've not taught to express properly? Like, why do you feel we fucked it up? Or why do you feel it's got so
I think it's challenging.
stuck?
What just stuck out in my mind is like when I'm with a bunch of girls or like I'm with guys because they speak very freely around me, like we'll celebrate somebody getting laid, but we won't ask any additional questions. Like we won't be like, oh, well, like, did you get off? Like, how was that? Oh, you didn't? Why? Why do you think that was happening? Like, start just imploring more questions.
How did you feel?
Yeah, like, what was happening there? And because I think, like, we'll be open enough to be like, yeah, I totally got laid last night, blah. And then, but it's not like, oh, well, like, how was the whole experience? Like, would you have sex with her again? And if somebody says no, why? What was going on there? You know? And for me, like, with my girlfriends, I'm always like, well, did you come? And they're like, oh, I like faked it. And I'm like, okay, but why? Like, start asking why. Start getting into the deeper questions. Because if we want to celebrate somebody getting laid, can we celebrate people getting laid who are asking for what they want and for what they need when they're actually feeling satisfied? So I think it's just like shifting the conversation a little bit. I don't know if we fucked it up totally.
No.
I just think like there's some cracks in the cement and we're falling through right now. And like, what if we filled those up? And what if we started just being a little bit more open and a little bit more vulnerable with our humans?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is like we're here once in like the physical experience of one. We're here right now. Do you know what I mean? And no one knows whatever it is. And the thing that really gets to me, and this is kind of like why we do what we do. The Nourish Group exists and stuff like that. Is people. You don't want to wait till it's too late to look back and go, oh, I maybe should have tried these sorts of things. Maybe this partner wasn't the right thing for me. Do you know what I mean? The end of your time. It's like, just experience the now. Like, that's the big thing. But like, what's stopping people experiencing the now? Fears, insecurities, like hiding their unique parts of themselves. Like, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's sad because I think we deserve so much more and we sell ourselves short a lot and we rush through life so quickly. So it's like, can you slow it down a little bit? Like, we've been invited to slow the heck down right now. Slow everything down. Slow your pleasure down. Slow time down with your friends, your family, whatever it is. And like, get into the nooks and crannies and realize like, oh, these are the moments that feel really good for me. Cool. And then in the bedroom, like, slow it down and be like, oh.
Yeah, stop trying to race.
Yeah, it's not a goddamn race. Good Lord. Like, take some time. Netflix can wait. Like, just be with your partner for a bit and experience, like, the skin-on-skin contact and how good that feels. And it's not always about, like, the pleasure zones. Like, there's so much more that happens there. Yeah. Ask questions.
I think that's it. I think, again, when you come back to the love languages as well, it's, like, the quality of time. Like, even though we can be with someone, like, even sexually, are we actually with that person, or is your head somewhere else?
Yeah, well, because I think we also all have these walls that we've built up over time from previous experiences, and I have to take a look at that and be like, is it serving me? If not, like, how do I start to let this down and let somebody in?
Would you say with this, like, because every single day you can wake up a different person and something can change, and what lit you up one day might not light you up the next.
Yep.
And would you say it's a case of being super aware with these things, and then also, do you and your partner have a communication thing where it's like, look, like, this is how I feel today, or do you know what I mean? Is there always a constant practice with it?
I don't know if there's like a cognizant constant practice. I think I am very fortunate to be very self-aware, but unfortunately sometimes for me self-awareness doesn't actually come out into action. So I can be like, well, here are all my things. What will I do about it? And so sometimes that means I sit on my shit for a bit.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it means I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Here we go. But just being gentle with yourself in all realms, and like, don't be too hard on yourself if you decide that like you want to try something new or you want to not do this anymore, and just really allow yourself to be comfortable in your own thought process.
Is this something where you see people open up to more? So, like, now that obviously if people are looking to explore themselves more, they're looking to open up their own thought process. Like, say, for example, you work with couples or individuals who are looking to step out and explore sex or that realm a little bit more. Is this something that you see where people usually start off? Is it a bit like BDSM, or do you see them kind of going into kink? What's the...
I think... so I've got a course coming up on kink, which is really fun. So I've just been like doing a lot of studying into that and figuring out like new things and things that I wouldn't have even thought of, which is really fun. And there's so many things. I think BDSM people automatically go to like whips and chains and like crazy leather masks, and that's too much. Like, that's also not a thing. Like, there's a lot of really healthy dynamics that get set up in there, and the basis of that is safe, sane, and consensual. So if you want to foray into there's so many online platforms that you can do that, and you're going to be totally taken care of. And if you have something as simple as like a kink where you want to do a little bit of role play, like, have some fun with it. Allow yourself to be free with it. For myself, like, I remember I just started like Googling things and letting Google take me into some weird areas and dark corners. And I was like, oh, well, like, this gives me like a little bit of a flutter in my area. So like, what does this mean? And it was like, all right, interesting. So it was like more information for me to take in. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll find a partner who maybe is into shibari rope tying. And then that happened, and I was like, I am into this. Awesome. But it can be light and fluffy. It can be dark and twisted. You can want like a collar around you and to be led on a lead. Like, that's totally cool. Like, whatever it is that you want, honor it. Have some fucking fun. Like, I don't know. Just jump into it. Like, why wait? I think is the other thing. Like, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for someone to give you permission? Because if it's that, I give you permission to try it out. I give you permission to message me, ask me any questions. I'm very open with everything, basically. And I have no shame in being like, yeah, I've tried this, or I'm into that, or, you know, like, just go.
What I'm loving about this conversation, Sarah, is it's like it's knitting so many different areas of life together. And like I said before at the beginning of this, we are pleasure seeking. We act on pleasure.
Yeah.
Or we'll fear avoidance or pain avoidance, and we'll always move towards pleasure. But what really does stop us is fear.
We're fear-based people. Yeah, it's horrible. It debilitates us. It's a corroding thread. It wiggles its way into every other area, and before you know it, I don't know, for me, I was 30, hit all of my life goals, and miserable. In a relationship with the apartment of my dreams, making a shit.
In our relationship, or in the relation? Does that make sense? In your box?
So I really wanted the American dream. So I dumbed myself down. You would have hated me. I had no personality. And I was bored out of my mind because I was trying to fit into this box that I was told I needed to be in. But realistically, I'm a wizard. So I'm going to be a wizard. And I'm going to be a weird wizard. And I'm going to try a bunch of things. And then once I gave myself permission to do that and maybe fall on my face and get messy, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. Like, I remember when I quit my like really high paying job, I was like, what will happen to me? I'm going to move in and be a breathwork facilitator. I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life. Again, fear. And in that moment, wasn't asking for what I wanted in my sexual life, wasn't asking from my friends what I needed to feel happy. None of them knew I was radically depressed because I was hiding it all. And for what? What am I hiding behind? How is that serving me? Because if I believe that we have this amazing universe and this amazing life, wouldn't the universe want the best for me? Wouldn't it want for me to step out of my own way, to step out of my fear, to realize that it's a lie I've sold myself on? It's not reality. So verbalize your fears. No matter what area you're in, have close people to you where you can be like, hey, this is what's coming up for me now. And they're going to be like, what? No. Because I know every time I've done that, I've been met with such confusion. And I'm like, oh. I am safe, supported, secured, and loved no matter what if I get my own thoughts out of my mind.
That really is it, isn't it? Fear. If you, this brings me to this then. So I want you to imagine you're speaking to a really shy version of yourself. Okay. Or if that ever was a thing. Or just someone who's kind of like shy, who doesn't really speak up for themselves, who knows they might want more, but they don't really know where to start with these things. Like, what would be your first initial steps in speaking to someone who is shy, they're not attracting the guy or the girl that they want, they don't feel like they don't have their voice yet, they're struggling to find that? Like, what would you say to that person to help them?
So happy you just framed that out, because you just spoke to exactly who I was. In my early 20s, I had no voice. I was a miserable bartender. I didn't know what kind of individual I was looking for, male, female, whatever it may be. I was so afraid of money, like all of these things. And I basically couldn't speak up or advocate for myself no matter what. And I felt absolutely lost, and like there was no one there to hold my hand. And what I had to take a look at is what I realized, that I had no self-esteem and no self-worth. So bring it all the way back to that. And what I would suggest is that you get this book called Mirror Work by Louise Hay. It's very silly, but one of my beloved teachers gave it to me when I started working with her, and it changed the game for me. Because what I realized was that I was afraid of myself. I was afraid of my own potential. I was afraid of my own voice. And that started to get me to take note of who I am. Like, I didn't have mirrors in my house because I didn't want to look at myself. Like, how sad. I had never looked at myself and like locked eyes with myself. And then I started doing this book, and it's just a 21-day process. They're really easy prompts. And one of the first things is like you lock eyes with yourself and you say these few things out loud. And before I knew it, I was hysterically crying. And I was like, I've been so disassociated with who I am, with what I want and what I need. I didn't even know what it was. And people were like, well, what do you want to do in life? I don't know. What kind of partner do you want? I don't know. Like, do you want to get married and have kids? I don't know. Take time. Get to know yourself. Because if you don't know who you are, who are you going to bring into a work relationship, a friendship, an intimate relationship? You've got to bring it back to you.
I think as well, like with that sort of person as well, like what's out there in the mainstream, or you're asked big questions. Like from right now, that shy girl might not have a clue what the next step is, but she's constantly being asked.
Yep.
What do you want from life? What do you want from your next business move?
What's your 5-year plan? Bitch, I don't know.
Instead of just breaking it down, like, what can you do tomorrow to move yourself forward? Yeah. Just that one thing. Yeah. Like, okay, today I'm just going to look at myself.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm going to look at myself and smile.
Yeah.
Then the day after that, I'm going to look at myself and smile, and then say, I love you, maybe. Or say, I like you today. Yeah. And then work it back that way, instead of trying to break things out so big.
I also think it's important to bring it back to the fact, like, if you remember when we were kids, like, we were silly, we were fearless, like, we were our own little superheroes. And what happened to that? What happened to that childlike fun? Can you go back to that? Can you start to incorporate that into your life? Yeah, but like we were fearless at a moment, right? We felt okay.
Like canvases.
Yeah, and like my childhood was weird in its own way, but like I felt so fearless in so many times, and I went out and I would run forever and I would just play and get dirty, and I didn't question myself. So what if you start to also incorporate into your life some childlike fun? What brings you joy? And if you can't think of something right now, spend some time, get a journal out, write down things that bring you joy. I had to realize for me, it's dance. I love it. I dance 3 times a week now. It's so much fun. I'm not good at it, but it allows me to have a bit of a giggle. And that's what I need. I need a little bit more joy, a little bit more play in my life, so I can incorporate that in like my day-to-day things.
Do you know, I think though with that as well, like, I love it, I'm not great at it, but I'm still doing it to get better. Like, that's the journey of life, isn't it? Instead of, I love doing this, I'm not good at it, so I'm going to stop because I think I look stupid.
Yeah. Look stupid. Be willing to be the stupid one in the class, because you're going to allow someone else to step into their power. And also, while you're doing it, it's a selfless act.
But then segue that into the conversation of sex. I enjoy this. Oh, and then what steps in? Like, just go with it. Communicate it.
Communicate. Everything's about communication.
So, Sarah, look, let's start wrapping this up. If I give you a device to speak to every female male in the world to help them get more pleasure in their life or whatever, and you could speak one message to impact all of the people on the planet to help them move forwards in their love lives, themselves, or whatever, what message would you speak?
Stop faking your pleasure. Go inward. Take note of what it is that you need. And remember that love times love equals love.
Love.
All the love.
Lead with love through fear.
Yeah. My friend Kristen shared that with me, and I always think about it. Like, anytime that I think someone's going to take something away from me, I remember if I go at it with love, I will likely be met with love, and I will be surrounded by love. And at like my core human self, I'm afraid of not being loved. And I often forget.
Is that not all of us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only speak for me. And that's my thing. And if I take a step back and I realize, like, I'm surrounded with love all of the time because that's how I lead my life. So soften up, give yourself some love, and share it with others.
Yeah. Awesome. And so, look, where can people find you? Where can people find out more?
Oh,
Reach out and maybe go, do you know what? I kind of want to embrace this crazy little side of me that's been coming up.
You know what? I got a question about a kink and I want to hear about it. You can find me on Instagram. My name is Sara Silverstein. And I do different workshops around kink, BDSM, breathwork, finding your own power, all of that. But Instagram is usually the best way to get me. But you can also check out my breathwork stuff on sarasil.com.
Awesome. I actually wouldn't mind jumping into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll round it up again at the end. Next question. You just reminded me of something. You're like amazing at breathwork. Okay, so let's pull this into the sexual realm. Like maybe people can't yet connect to the voice, but can they first connect to the breath in the bedroom? Does that make sense?
Yes. I just held a breathgasm workshop with Kristen. I've referenced her a couple of times. She's Yonilicious on Instagram. You definitely want to check her out for all things sex positive. So we just did a breathgasm course where we led 56 women into understanding their pleasure with the breath. So I was having group classes here frequently, and women would come up to me afterwards and they'd be like, I came, and I'm like, congratulations, sweetie. I'm so proud of you. And our breath is connected in with our vagus nerve, which goes all throughout our body. And especially if you go all the way down into your womb as a woman and you start to like contract and like let everything go and just guiding the breath through there, it's really powerful. And you can achieve extreme pleasure with no touch, which is divine. And same thing for men. I had a guy say that he came in my class. Oh my God. I didn't know him. And I was like, oh my God, this is powerful. And like, if you think about it, if you bring the breath into your bedroom and you're too afraid to say anything, you can just play with it yourself. So I can speak for the women right now, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to take an inhale and squeeze everything like you're doing a Kegel when they enter you. And then as they're exiting you, release, exhale all the way out, and then just keep that going as a proper play. I promise you will experience some new feelings, and it should be very enjoyable. But so we have a whole workshop around that, really like tapping into your pleasure. And I mean, men is the same way. Like if you focus on your breath, you're actually going to have better stamina. You're going to be able to harness all of your power. And, the deeper that we breathe, the more energy for the cells that we get, so we can actually perform better in all areas. So whether that be like creatively, work life, sex life, whatever, you're going to have all the energy that you need, and you're going to be able to be really present because the breath brings us right into that moment, not into 5 minutes from now, not into, my previous experiences, but right there and then. As the breath is flowing through you, just feel it.
Yeah.
Let the body move.
No, I love that. I love that we kind of got onto that. I was just thinking before, I was like, a lot of people struggle to voice or express. So maybe they can first learn to connect to breath.
Well, I mean, that's what I do. Yeah.
Voice.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of my one-on-one clients, a lot of them struggle with their voice. And especially when we're doing this sequence breath practice, we're sending all of the air through the throat. So if you want to get hippie woo with me for a second, we have a throat chakra. If there's blockages, a lot of my clients end up coughing in the middle of class. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, like this is things moving. It's really important. And then we let out a big, large yell. And most people, if you think about it, when's the last time you yelled your head off?
People can't do that.
Oh my God.
I've seen it. People like just open, like nothing comes out.
Yeah. I couldn't yell for my first 11 classes. 11 classes of being in rooms of 50 plus people, not being able to use my voice. Can you believe it? Because I can't shut up now. Yeah. But so like maybe after this, you grab a pillow and you yell into it. Allow yourself to feel the vibrations of your own voice and understand that has a depth and a weight that we need to hear, and just start getting that to move.
Yeah. It's amazing though, like people just, like if you just say something, just yell in your own house. Some people just can't tap into their own voice enough to raise it.
Because we're judging ourselves. Again, back to the fear. Like, what will someone think of me? Who gives a shit? Who cares? Go into the street, yell. Like, have some fun. Yell in your car. I don't know. Just get it out.
Yeah, I was going to say we've got people in the house, haven't we? We can't yell here.
I yell in here all the time. Are you kidding me? And that's like another thing is why I say like grab a pillow and yell into it. It really muffles everything, and it just gives you an opportunity to like, oh, right, this does feel good. And I always reference like kids who yell and have temper tantrums. They don't care. They do not care who hears them, who sees them. It's the parents that are in shock and they're like, oh my God, I'm a bad parent. No, you're not a bad parent. You just got a kid who's free. Awesome. Be free. Allow yourself to be free. Allow yourself to tap into your voice and just let it go with ease.
Yeah. I love it. Sarah, look, this is a conversation that can go on for ages and go down lots of different wormholes. I really hope this has helped a lot of people who maybe know that there's more that they can tap into or that they're not tapping into. But, like, look, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for letting me be lewd.
Let's give you a platform.